Welcome back to Fox 9 All Day. Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert again today. News yesterday affecting the state capitol. State Senator Rich Draheim, who represents the Madison Lake area, which is near Mankato, Republican from Madison Lake, said he will not be seeking re-election in 2026. Now, of course, lawmakers do this from time to time. Some are there shorter periods, some are longer periods. One of the reasons he kind of listed in his statement that he will not run again, one of the reasons is that he believes in term limits. He spent 10 years in the Senate, says he wants to give others a chance to serve, and he is joining us now. Senator Rich Draheim, thank you for your time with us today. You know, you have a lot that you are proud of your accomplishments here in the past 10 years, specifically in terms of mental health most recently. A lot of regrets of things you didn't get accomplished. What is it in that then leads into a decision to not seek re-election? How much of that is 10 years is good? How much of that is others need to come in?
I think it all blends together. And, you know, for me, you know, before I ran, I believed in term limits, and I looked at running for office as giving back to the community, giving back to the state. And I think it only works when we have average people from different backgrounds coming to the state capitol with their life experiences to try to make the place a better, more livable state.
You say that your top priorities for this next session, which will be your final one, are public safety, addressing rising healthcare costs, and term limits at the Minnesota Capitol. So let's stay on that topic for a minute. I mean, how much of an appetite do you think there is among your colleagues there to actually put term limits in the Minnesota legislature?
Well, when I first ran, you know, I thought 10, 12 years would be good, and got a lot of pushback. And then I went up to 20 years, and I got a lot of pushback. And then I said, okay, we'll go 20 years, plus we'll grandfather in your 30, 40 years you've been up there, and the term limits won't start until the next election cycle. And that is the current draft of the bill that I have offered, is a 20-year term limit, and you are grandfathered in for the time that you've already served. Just trying to get the buy-in from both sides of the aisle, because I think a majority of the people across Minnesota support term limits.
What is the pushback, though, that you might hear from fellow legislators about putting term limits in? Is it fear of losing a wealth of experience at the Capitol, or is it because people really enjoy their jobs and don't want to make a change? I mean, what are the reasons that people may not want to support that?
You know, you do hear that, you know, and the people do elect us to come up. But it's a lot easier being an incumbent to get reelected than it is to be someone new. And some of the pushback has been that then the staff would control everything if we didn't have experience. Well, you know, 20 years is a long time. Most people view 20 years as a career. So I do think there is a number. And maybe it isn't 20, maybe it isn't 10, maybe it's somewhere in between. But we need to have that discussion. And I think the Capitol would be a better place if we did have fresh ideas from new people on a regular basis. And I think you lose a little bit of that connectivity with your district when you are in St. Paul. And I think the longer you're there, the more comfortable you get. And I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah, and so what are the then advantages? I mean, obviously new ideas among them for getting fresh voices in there. What else do fresh voices, in your view, offer?
Well, I think, you know, the longer you're there, the more things you get invited to. I could literally be at meetings all day long, every day of the week, somewhere across the state. And it is good to hear from different groups, different industries, that you do take that back to the Capitol. That's all positive. But our job, our first priority is our district. And I think the longer you're up in St. Paul or in DC, the less connected you are to your district. That's why I'm against full-time legislation. And you think about it today, you can order in all your food. You don't have to go buy anything. You know, you should be in your community. You should be buying gas at the local gas station. You should be going to the hardware store, convenience store, whatever. But how many people just order everything in now and don't really get out in public and talk to the average resident of their district? And I think that's the piece that's missing.
Yeah.
And I think it's becoming harder and harder for elected officials to connect to those people.
So that the longer that they're serving, the more disconnected they may become to the voices of their community that sent them there to begin with. Yeah.
Correct.
Your 10 years at the state capitol, again, heading into your final session here. What are you most proud of accomplishing? I know that you're the chief author of the omnibus bill regarding nearly $100 million in funding for mental health most recently. Is that one of the crowning achievements for you?
Yeah, it is, and there was a good group of colleagues on both sides of the aisle that helped with that, and that's why it was successful, because it was bipartisan. And then housing would be the other thing. That pathway to homeownership, I think, is so important. And when I started, housing was part of the Agriculture and Rural Development Committee. It was a one-day, usually a year topic, and I think housing is so important, and we all know the cost of housing is out of control. Mm-hmm. And you know, I really pushed to have that as a separate committee, and was the first chair of that committee. And that's, I think, pretty impactful also. And
you said one of your priorities for this final term, alongside term limits, is health care and public safety in Minnesota. What are you hoping to accomplish in your last session here?
Well, you know, you look at, I think the thing that's taking up the most airwaves is the gap coverage for mainly our seniors, and they're losing their voice, their advocacy, with some of the companies not paying insurance agents the few dollars they get per policy to help advocate for seniors in their gap coverage. You know, every county is different across the whole state. We need to simplify that. We need to, of course, reduce the cost. I met with Blue Cross Blue Shield at the beginning of the year last year, and they predicted that rates would go up 10 to 30%. And what I'm hearing as I travel across the state, yet they're going up 21, 24%. And that's making it harder and harder for the average household to afford a good health policy.
Yeah, certainly a hot topic. Well, lastly, we got to wrap up here, but you know, as we've seen more partisanship at the state legislature, where both sides kind of dig in their heels, what is your advice to the people that are coming into this to try to find more accomplishments in negotiating in common ground rather than just sort of legislative standoffs?
You know, it's simple: building relationships and trying to find common ground. You know, work with the people across the aisle, across the two bodies, that you can find some commonality. And I have friends on both sides of the aisle and both bodies. We don't agree on everything, and nor should we, but we should agree to sit down and talk about it and try to brainstorm for a solution.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking to former Governor Arnie Carlson, many conversations with him, and he said, you know, it's changed. That's the way it used to be. Everybody was friends, even if they didn't agree. They agreed to disagree, and they figured out what they could agree on and got some things done, and he feels that's kind of slipped away a little bit. But thank you so much for taking your time today. Thanks for 10 years of service, and good luck with your final legislative session.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, there we go. Senator Rich Draheim, Republican of Madison Lake, who is not seeking re-election after 10 years. And part of the reason is that he believes that there should be a limit in how much time you serve, and would like to see term limits established, but obviously a lot of pushback here.